I'm Eric Stewart with Widow Care, and this is Widow Care Talks, and I'm here with Amy Remington. We're glad you could join us today. Thank you, Amy. Yes. Amy is a widow, and she's going to share her story today about her love of her life, Chris, and about her family, and her sons and her daughter, and how she's going through the process of her widowhood. So, Amy, thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having me. My pleasure.
Thank you. So you and Chris, and I happen to know Chris because we were in the Fathers Club at the school where my daughter, Mary Catherine, and your daughter go, right? And got to know his experience in sports as a lacrosse player, and got to know him through the Fathers Club, and really appreciated the friendship that I developed with him, though I didn't know him well. And it was a shock to me, as I know it was to the entire body at Holy Child, that Chris had passed very, very unexpectedly. I know you, more than anybody, felt that. Tell us about your experience. What happened, and then how have you helped your children to walk through that as a mom with 3 kids, all in middle and high school?
Well, of course, it was out of nowhere and shocking to all of us, but from the moment that I found out, I took the perspective that I had to lead by example, and we had to keep on moving on the same path that Chris and I had planned and wanted for our family.
Right.
So that's what I did.
Okay.
And I just took the grieving process a little bit different than some may, but I felt like I had no other choice because I didn't want my children to think that this was the end of everything and not to continue on living out their dreams and everything that Chris and I had set up for them to move forward. So just trying to lead by example as life goes on. And, you know, you just have to keep going.
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard sometimes. It's, you know, and it's hard for them to understand. But I think we're doing a pretty good job. We're doing a pretty good job.
That vision for your children to carry the vision that you and Chris had and carry that forward and keep them focused forward, how has that helped them?
I think it's helped them grieve the loss of him a little bit easier, to know that they're doing what he would want them to do to make him proud. I think it's lessened some of the hurt, maybe not so much inside, but from the outside, you know, from other people's perspectives. They have a pretty strong attitude about everything, and good heads on their shoulders, and a really good sense of humor. So we keep Chris in our conversations all the time, every day, all sorts of, you know, jokes, stories, everything. So it's you know, I think that helps us keep his memory and everything that he was about alive. And he was a big personality. So that dynamic is definitely very visible in our house. It's very visible when you see me. But keeping like the laughing and the memories and the stories alive, you know, help a lot.
Do you find that they have helped you, your children have helped you through your grieving process?
Yes, because they're visions of like Chris and I. I mean, Chris and I had a very strong marriage, you know, loved being with each other, did everything together, and knowing that we created those 3 kids and seeing certain things that, you know, they pick up from him or from me, it helps. It helps. Sometimes it helps, sometimes it's a little bit more painful because I wish he was there, you know, with us, but you know, to watch all these things that they're doing growing up and the milestones that they're hitting, but I know he's still watching over us.
Do you think that talking things out with your children that way, that processing of your grief together as a family, has enabled all of you to keep kind of bouncing forward, moving forward as you're walking through, keeping the vision alive and also grieving his loss, but also embracing the future?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, just talking it out. I mean, we talk about everything. So, different things that could possibly bother them, or things in the future. And I do think that, especially them being teenagers and not always understanding everything, talking it out, helps them deal and recognize different things that can happen. And we have an open door policy. Like, anything goes, doesn't matter. And I've told them that that's the only way we're gonna work through this together, is to talk and not keep things in. So.
How about triggers for you? Are there any specific triggers that bring him back in a way that is difficult for you?
Yes. Watching a lacrosse game, going to the grocery store, certain songs, certain things that just hit me, like square in the back of the head. But sometimes I think that that's kind of a sign. So, I take it, and it, makes me smile. Just yesterday, someone posted a picture from 2015 of a golf tournament that he was playing in, and they were advertising it as, Holy Redeemer Classics. And it was him and 3 other friends, and it was just so, it takes my breath away when I see him like that, and it's just, I rush back to see, trying to remember what we were exactly doing at that time and that year. But, I don't have any choice but to move forward. He's not coming back, so.
So it sounds like those triggers, albeit they're hard, you feel knocked in the back of your head, as you say, but it also sounds like they remind you, and that you process in that moment through your grief, and on the back end of that, you end up relishing that relationship.
Yeah.
And so the trigger is maybe hard in the moment, but then also you're able to remember that and enjoy that memory.
Yeah.
For your children, do they have triggers as well?
I think it's home, especially on Sundays. A little bit so lacrosse games, the holidays. I'm sure it's hard also for all these father-son, lunches or father-son celebrations that all their schools have. But they seem to, they still go with other people, and I think that that's healthy for them to do. I do.
Amy, how has the church supported you through your trial?
Just having faith in God. So just having the faith to know that we're just going forward. Just knowing that this wasn't necessarily God's plan. It's just life. And it doesn't always go your way.
I heard something yesterday at our speaker series that we had, that when you married Chris, you married till death do you part. And for you, you're still here. But for him, he was married to you until death parted you. So he fulfilled that commitment. And that is the other side of a consideration for widows and widowers, is that when you lose your spouse, they have fulfilled their vow.
Yes.
And in that sense, they have, the vow before God that they would be there for you until that time, they fulfilled that. And you did as well. And there is a new plan for you.
Right.
We don't know exactly all that's going to be, but that's the hope that every widow and widower has, is that my life will move on. It's just hard in that time, and to see what it's going to be. And have you had other widows and widowers who've said things to you that have really touched you, really helped you, or maybe you've helped other widows or widowers as they've been struggling?
There have been a couple people, and I have a couple of friends that are widows and widowers. And one of the things that a couple of them had said is, we don't know how you're doing this because we knew that our husband or wife was going to die, that they were sick. We knew that, that was coming. And I don't know how you're dealing with that. Well, I mean, I don't know if knowing that was going to happen would have been better or worse, I can only say that I didn't have any regrets. I'm not saying anything to him. I've said everything that I needed to. He knew how much I loved him. I knew how much he loved me. There's nothing that needed to be that I was like, oh, I wish I said that to him. It was all good, which that makes me happy. But I think the advice is that I've gotten from you just have to be strong. It's not what you wanted to happen. Nobody necessarily wants to raise teenagers on their own. But, I have a good support system as well.
Tell me about that support system.
I just have amazing friends and family. And Chris was loved that much that everyone surrounds us with love, and it's wonderful. It's wonderful to know that we really have just like wonderful friends that are family. They're more family than, just friends. And it's great. And they're helpful with my kids. They're helpful with me. All the new stuff that came with all of this, bills, managing the household, managing, finances, all of that. So it's good to know that I have people that I can trust and rely on to ask, because this is stuff that was not in my realm of responsibilities in our marriage. Was his. So
you had friends and family who stepped up to sustain you, maybe in responsibilities you previously had not had.
Yeah, correct.
And provide some training in that so that you could learn that as well as just
Yes.
performing those functions. I often hear that there's a period of grieving after the loss of a spouse, and there's a lot of involvement from friends and family initially, and that tends to dissipate over time as people sort of expect that life moves on.
Yes.
How has that been for you?
I slowly saw it happening. And at first I was a little saddened by it, but knew that this had to happen. We had to start our life as the four of us, and that meant not always having people around, and sometimes that's hard. But it's manageable. I mean, if my kids are not home, I generally do not stay home, because that's really hard. But was just one of the steps that we had to get through.
So Amy, maybe you could tell us a little bit about the rules of your marriage, because one of the reasons why you are standing here telling me, I don't regret, I told him how I felt, I communicated my love for him, and we were a close couple. We knew each other well. We went shopping together. We did all kinds of things. Really everything, right? Your life was about the two of you together. So because of that, you made a commitment with Chris to live with rules. And then after Chris passed, you also created some additional rules for your family. Do you mind sharing some of those rules with us?
Well, Chris and I put them together, probably 6 or 7 years ago. Basically, so our children, as they got older, to give them as examples of how to have a good relationship, how to have a good marriage, how to enjoy each other, and, not just be husband and wife, but be, friends and close. And some of it's just, simple, everyday advice. It doesn't hurt to give a compliment. Say I love you, be affectionate towards each other. Little things that we carried on through our day-to-day life in our marriage, which kept our marriage wonderful. It was never stale. You know, and that's kind of what we were trying to say. Like, just because you're married, you're getting older, you have children, and
Right.
lots of responsibilities, doesn't mean that you can't still be madly in love and have fun together.
Mm-hmm. That's great advice. In a culture where half of marriages end in divorce, this day and age, unfortunately, hardship in the heart grows over time,
Mm-hmm.
and you have to work every day paying compliments, thinking of speaking kindness, and showing love, right? So these are great qualities. And your children, again, in the grieving process, because of that example, and because you've carried that forward and you're showing that same affection and care for your children, they see the example of your marriage and they're able to heal better. And I think, and that's wonderful. It's just a wonderful gift that you're giving. And you've created these rules and have actually shared these rules with us, and we would like to provide a copy of these rules to anybody who would request them. Would that be okay with you?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So if you would like to get a copy of Amy Remington's Rules for a Happy Marriage, and you will find that here on our website. So, good. Is there anything else that you wanted to share today?
I guess I'll end it with, it's just, we're still here. We have to live our lives and move on. And having the incredible love that Chris and I shared gives me the strength to keep living. It's about living, loving, and surviving. And those are the 3 examples that I'm trying to lead for my kids.
That's beautiful. Living, loving, and surviving.
Yeah.
It's been our pleasure to have Amy Remington here on Widow Care Talks. Amy, thank you.
Thank you.
Very nice.